Welcome to newlytrading.com. I'll look at some of the newest publicly traded companies on the TSX.V, OTC, and on the CSE exchanges. This program is intended to provide insight and background on our featured company and provide additional information and links on our website, newlytrading.com. Today we're talking with Cale Moody, CEO of Neptune Dash. Trading symbol is DASH on the TSX Venture Exchange. Good morning, Cale.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well. Thanks for joining us. Cale, let's start with you giving us a little bit of your professional background and public market experience, if you would.
Yeah. It's interesting. My path has been kind of interesting. I'm a CA, chartered accountant, CPA. My background goes back to public practice. I was with KPMG Industrial Markets Group, actually in Vancouver, and my focus was on mining companies, traditional mining companies, for a number of years, and then went into industry and started taking on CFO gigs and directorship roles with actual mining companies. And did that for a number of years. Had a couple nice liquidity events where two of the previous companies I was with, Sierra Geothermal and Underworld Resources, we sold that for about $150 million. And that was back in 2010. And my evolution sort of was when I read the white paper, which was Bitcoin, digital gold, and being a guy from traditional sort of mining background, I really understood the scarcity fundamentals of Bitcoin, and it really resonated with me. And this is back in 2012, 2013. 2013, I tried to start a company with some business partners, which was a Bitcoin sort of payment processing company. But the market was, it was really early. You just couldn't get even a bank account. There was still that association with cryptocurrency that it was the dark web and black money, and nobody wanted to touch it. So fast forward to today, this rally has sort of opened up the door to a lot of opportunity, and sort of 2017 was the year where I said, let's pull the trigger and do some exciting things.
Can you help those of us who are a little unclear on the whole blockchain space, the technology, how crowded is it, and is there a short form for people to understand that whole technology sector and how it works?
Yeah. It actually is quite complex, and it does require, I compare it to like the internet. Do you need to know in the inner workings of the entire web and the internet to actually, surf the web? You don't, but it is good to have that sort of basic knowledge. And so the blockchain space encompasses numerous different markets. There's blockchain technology, which is actually, the blockchain is a technology that a lot of these cryptocurrencies are based on. And that technology can be used in, all sorts of realms of business and markets and banking and retail, everything. You name it, you apply blockchain technology to it, and it fundamentally changes things in a positive way. So there's the blockchain technology element, then there's also the cryptocurrency element. And I think this is where people get confused. So cryptocurrency is actually the currencies that are based on a blockchain. So you can trade and play with cryptocurrencies and use them for purchasing things and trade amongst people, individuals, or on an exchange. That doesn't mean you're in the blockchain technology space. That means you're sort of in the cryptocurrency space. So there's trading, and then there's ICOs, which is another complex market. And that's initial currency offering, which is essentially, or crypto offering, which is essentially the formation of what we call a token, which the original token would be Bitcoin. So it's the process by which more cryptocurrencies are created. And, those, as we know, have blown up recently. And, there's probably 3,000 plus cryptocurrencies today through that ICO process. And then we have something that's happening right now, which is actually quite interesting, and I'm quite fascinated by, which is the tokenization of assets. And that's the process where you take an asset, be it real estate or art or anything, and you basically convert it into a token or a number of tokens. So you could sell, say, a portion of that piece of art that you had hanging on your wall by issuing tokens, and those tokens have a value that would trade with the value of that asset. So there's a lot of different markets here, and it is quite complex. But for your average investor, you don't need to understand in depth every market. to be able to invest in it. And I would say sort of a balanced portfolio is one where you're sitting on some cryptocurrency and you're investing in some blockchain technology. You can do that through the public markets now, and that's sort of a good place to start. Maybe
tell us about now Neptune Dash and what makes it unique to other companies in the space.
Yeah. So it's interesting. So what we did is we basically wanted to create. We looked at the top 10 cryptocurrencies out there and said, hey, how do we create vehicles where the public markets and the retail investors have exposure to these top 10 market cap cryptocurrencies? And Dash provided sort of a unique opportunity where you can create these things called masternodes, which is part of the Dash network. And essentially, you need 1,000 Dash tokens to do this. And when you create this masternode and run these masternodes, you get paid 40% of the block reward. So essentially, it's kind of like mining, even though you're not actually mining. The miners are traditional proof of work process. They mine, they share that block reward with the masternodes that perform a few features on the network. And so in the top 10 cryptocurrencies we looked at, Dash was sort of the one that we really liked in that sense. We liked that structure. And so we said, hey, let's create a vehicle, and it'll be the first publicly traded, essentially cryptocurrency operating company running masternodes. But at the same time, the investor gets exposure to a large pile of cryptocurrency, because essentially Dash is liquid. Within these masternodes, you have essentially 1,000 Dash tokens that you could theoretically we could sell. We wouldn't have a masternode anymore, but you could liquidate these fairly easily. So I don't know of any companies out there that are doing what we're doing. I could say the closest comparison would be probably a fund like Grayscale maybe, or another mining company out there that's actually doing proof of work mining, but sitting on their Dash that they mine. But I'm not aware of any. So in that sense, in terms of a nice exposure vehicle through an operating company, it's quite unique in that sense.
What's the public company environment for blockchain companies and companies like yours in the sector? What kind of response?
Yeah, I mean, the Canadian public markets are interesting because we're attracting a lot of capital from not only Canadian banks and brokers and retail investors, but also from the U.S. Just because the regulatory environment's a little more strict there and it's a little slower, seems to catch on. So a lot of capital is flowing in from the U.S. and from around the world. So in terms of like Canadian public markets, I think the cannabis space and the cryptocurrency and blockchain space has really sort of elevated things over the last 12 months. So it's quite interesting. So there's actually really only a handful of blockchain and crypto companies out there right now. There's a unique window, I think, of opportunity between sort of October and January of last year and January of this year that we were able to, and a lot of other companies were able to raise a fair bit of capital. And I think we got quite lucky in terms of taking advantage of that window. We raised about $23.2 million in December, which was sort of the peak of what I want to say the short-term rally, because I believe there's going to be another rally that's going to far exceed what the one we saw in December. But yeah, a lot of companies took advantage of that. But I mean, again, we still if you compare us to sort of the cannabis companies or the junior mining companies, I mean, it's a micro fraction of what's out there in terms of these other industries.
Neptune Dash is already kind of in an interesting place that you're the first public blockchain company that is entirely focused on the Dash ecosystem, and the first public company to exclusively own and operate masternode assets as a business. What's the future? What's next? What are the milestones you're looking to move towards?
Yeah, so there's a couple different things here. For me, my sort of goal is to scale this thing. I mean, we obviously have revenue in the form of Dash right now, about 125 Dash every month. So given whatever price you look at, and then any given day, it's 30,000 to 150,000 a month, or more. But so it really is a scaling operation. So we want to raise more capital at some point in time. I don't want to really do a down round. Although fundamentally, you raise money at a lower rate, but you're buying Dash at lower rates. It's kind of the same, one and the same sort of thing. But nobody likes a down round after your RTO and going public listing. So that's the first step. So basically to scale operations, build up a number of masternodes we have, raise more capital and sort of continue that process. And then we reinvest all the Dash into creating more masternodes. And that's sort of a self-propagating model, in that at some point in time, we're creating a masternode every month, which is sort of a beautiful thing. And then your revenues really sort of go through the roof. You get that exponential growth curve. That said, we're also incubating a company currently, which is called Neptune Stake. You probably saw this in one of our past news releases. This is quite an interesting area. We believe that proof of stake mining is going to become quite exciting, given the fact that you don't need large power requirements to actually mine proof of stake coins. Ethereum has a little bit of buzz out there about how they're going to go to a proof of stake system eventually. We have Bitcoin, which has a Lightning network, which also uses a sort of a proof of stake, staking on the Lightning network. And I'm not super technical in that department, but I know that's quite an interesting feature as well. So we're looking at building sort of this company that's going to focus on sort of 20 top proof of stake coins. We think that's a good value incentive to Neptune Dash potential shareholders and buyers of our stock, because at some point in time we'll probably spin this thing out. And now whoever owns Neptune Dash has access to a large diversified portfolio of cryptocurrency. But we think it's a massive value proposition to our existing shareholders and to potential shareholders.
If people would like some more information on Neptune Dash and maybe get educated a little bit, how can they reach you? How do they reach out?
Yeah, so we have our website, which is great and quite informative, www.neptunedash.com. They can also call our office and talk to our IR individual here, Dustin, and they can call our office and talk to myself anytime.
I appreciate your time, Cal.
All right. Thank you very much.
Our guest today was Cal Moody, CEO of Neptune Dash, trading symbol DASH on the TSX Venture Exchange. That's it for this episode of NewlyTrading.com, the podcast. Join us next week, same time, for another featured Newly Trading company on the TSX.V, OTC, or CSE exchanges. And go to NewlyTrading.com to subscribe. NewlyTrading.com and this podcast are solely intended for information purposes. If you're considering investing in securities, always consult a professional advisor. I'm Jim Ripley.